I remember exactly where I was when I saw the Call Me By Your Name trailer for the very first time, and I waited months to see the movie, which I was eventually obsessed with, went on to read the book, and before this point, I hadn't really sought out gay media because that wasn't really on my radar, and it's not as though I went looking for it afterwards, but I think I was just looking for another Call Me By Your Name, and that led me to find some pretty good gay romance novels and movies as well. One such book is called Morphe, written by a South African author, Andre Carl van der Merwe, which has an excellent movie adaptation by one of my favorite directors, Oliver Hermanus. Swimming in the Dark, another one of my favorites. A beautiful book by a Polish author, and this is set during the decline of communism in Poland in the 1980s. So there's a lot of rich history in the book as well. And obviously my all-time favorite book is called Lie With Me by French author Philippe Besson. There's also a really good movie adaptation of that book, which I'm actually working on a video about that at the moment. Over the last few years, we were lucky enough to get 3 seasons of Young Royals, and somewhere in between all of this, I saw the piano clip with Elliot and Luca from SKAM France on YouTube, and I've been wanting to watch the show for years at this point. Finally, I got to it. I've also started watching Nora and Willem's season from the OG Norwegian SKAM, and I'm gonna work my way through the countries. If you don't know, the TV show SKAM originated in Norway, and they were all different countries telling the same story throughout the seasons, but obviously with different actors and their own different spin on things. Anyway, enough of that. Onto the video. A boy named Luca is in the kitchen at a house party talking to his friends who ask him who he has his eye on, who he might make a move on this evening. He subtly points to a pretty brunette who's dancing, and her name is Chloe. Chloe and Luca do end up talking that evening, and for a guy who at first I thought was pretty shy, he's kind of charming actually, without trying to be. He offers Chloe some of his joint, and then he does the thing of blowing smoke into her mouth so that she doesn't cough as much. They end up making out, but they're kind of interrupted by the police, who arrive at the party due to a noise complaint. In fact, it looked as though Luca might have stopped the kiss before that point, but he uses the police as an opportunity to escape out the window without saying goodbye to Chloe, and his weed falls out of his pocket. Luca is having some family problems. His mother suffers from a pretty severe mental illness, so she's in a facility, and his father pretty much ran out on them. Luca lives in an apartment that he shares with Mika and another friend, and his dad helps him out with the rent out of guilt. But even then, his dad isn't consistent, doesn't pay on time, and so yeah, he is a bit of a deadbeat. At school, Daphne and her adorable prefect energy invites Luca and his friends to some kind of inclusive space event so that people can hang out. And she's handing out flyers for this event, which takes place in the common room. And the boys make all sorts of excuses. I mean, they're not keen on spending their Friday in the common room at school. In class later that week, one of Luca's classmates, Iman, tells him that she found his weed at the party, but she's going to hold on to it for now. She wants him and his friends to commit to coming to the common room event first, and then she might consider giving it back to him. Obviously, Luca has no option, so he reluctantly agrees. On Friday afternoon, he goes to the meeting, and Daphne is really enthusiastic, but the turnout is pretty poor at the start, until Luca's friends end up joining, and some others too, and it turns out to not be so bad. Then in walks Elliot, who catches Luca's attention immediately, and they exchange a brief glance as he sits down. Luca, throughout the meeting, keeps half looking back at Elliot. He's drawn to this boy with gorgeous hair, even though up until this point, he seems to have been straight. We don't see Elliot openly paying attention to Luca after that initial first glance, but he saw him. That evening, they bump into each other at the bus stop and they get to talking. Although Elias does most of the talking, he got to the school 3 weeks ago and he's a third year studying literature. This is 5 months before their graduation, so moving schools at this point is a little bit weird, but yeah, it happens. We don't hear the reason for it though. Throughout their interactions, Luca is a little bit more reserved. It's more like, you know, when you meet somebody and you're very quickly drawn to them and you just kind of want to take in everything about them. It's kind of like that. Chloe from the party comes to join them at the bus stop then, and she's obviously still interested in Luca. And shame, she's really sweet and bubbly, and the episode ends with the 3 of them at the bus stop. At home, obviously Luca looks for Elliot on social media, and at school he's still checking for Elliot online. There's a video of one of Elliot's creative projects, and he's explaining it to an interviewer. He's not just a pretty face and a cool guy, he's pretty creative, sensitive, a talented storyteller, an artist, a bit of a romantic. Luca asks Iman when the next common room meeting is, and she's a little bit suspicious at first when he says that the last one wasn't so bad, because she basically had to strong arm him into going into that one. But ultimately, she's pleased that he's showing interest, and she says that it's on Wednesday. Obviously, Luca wants to go, hoping that Elliot would be there. At the bus stop the other night, the boys had both agreed that the meetings are a little weird, but Elliot thought that it was cool and it was a nice way to meet new people. Luca shows up at the meeting and it's just the girls and him. But he doesn't seem to be having the worst time. He participates and he has some laughs. Just then though, he sees Elliot walk by outside and he excuses himself and leaves the meeting. He bumps into his friends outside who are trying to talk to him, but he's distracted, busy trying to look for Elliot in the courtyard, who seems to have disappeared. Chloe comes by then and invites him to a party on Friday night, and Luca tries to make an excuse, but his friends speak over him, telling him that they're going to go. These are high school boys, and of course they think that Luca is crazy for turning down a party invite from a pretty girl. He says that she's a little clingy and it stresses him out. They obviously don't know what's wrong with him. At home, Luca searches for Elliot's graphic novel, and the story is a pretty cute one about a guy who falls in love with a kind of being, a creature in a tunnel. There's something melancholic and a bit lonely but romantic about it. Afterwards, Luca downloads a gay app, but it ends up being too grinderish for him. Not so much romantic boys with perfect hair and pretty eyes, rather men with their crotches out and sleazy selfies. It's too much for a newly gay curious guy, and he throws his phone onto the bed. He's not into it. Luca and his friends are planning on going to another party, and it's Luca's turn to buy alcohol, but he's having money issues, remember? His dad has been late giving him money for rent, and now this. So he asks his roommate Mika for 20 euros, but obviously Mika can't, he's at work. But just then, Elliot appears, and he offers to help Luca. Obviously, Luca doesn't want to borrow money, but Elliot says, no, not money, but I have a lot of beers at my house, so we can go get those. They go to Elliot's home, and they have a beer while Luca looks at some of Elliot's drawings on the wall. Elliot has some self-portraits, and they talk a little bit about Elliot's art. Both the boys end up staying at Elliot's home, smoking and talking. When Elliot moves to put some music on records, we see that Luca's friends are pretty much blowing up his phone at this point. He's kind of stood them up and they're wondering where he is. They do tell him that it's fine. Even if he can't get the beers, he can still just come. Chloe texts him as well, but he quickly backs out and he makes excuses for why he can't come. So yeah, the two boys just chill at the apartment and it's pretty comfortable. Luca goes to play around on the piano a little bit. In the beginning, it's as though he's just fooling around and Elliot says that he can't play either. Then Luca starts playing I Love You from Rio P and he plays it beautifully. Elliot looks mesmerized by him and he says that Luca surprised him. Just then, Elliot remembers that he has to meet up with some friends. Luca, by the way, should also get going, but they both seem to have lost track of time. But I do think that Luca didn't really. He just let time get away from him and he wanted to stay and he would have stayed longer. Elliot apologizes to Luca and says that they should hang out again, and Luca says that they can hang out anytime. Before he leaves, Elliot reaches over and he takes something out of Luca's hair, and it's very subtle, but it's a moment for sure. And then, oh no, Luca sees Elliot leave his house and he quickly kisses a girl on the lips and they go off together, leaving Luca probably more than a little disappointed and confused as to whether he read the signs all wrong. Also, Chloe is really mad at him for standing her up. In episode 3, that Monday at school, Luca's friends are upset with him. They ended up having to miss the party because of him, but he makes some kind of excuse about things not going well at home with his mom, and the friends feel bad, so they drop it. Shame, one of his friends, Jan, even stays behind and asks him if his mom is okay. That evening at home, Luca searches for an online quiz to find out whether or not he's gay. And then he Googles how to hide that he might be gay, and he goes onto these forums looking for advice. I didn't think that he would take this advice because he's otherwise a sensitive and nice guy, but he does. And when he's with his friends, he starts using really coarse language when he talks about girls, and he uses the F gay slur. Even one of his friends is like, dude, are you okay? Because it's pretty noticeable. He tells Chloe that he met somebody. He kissed her and now he's madly in love and he doesn't know how to handle it. He says that he's scared of messing up because all he does is think about this girl. It's Chloe that he's actually talking about, and I gotta admit, this is pretty smooth. He asks for her forgiveness and she gives it, and she kisses him in front of his friends, and they're thinking how cool he is to be able to pull this off. And then Elliot comes to them and Lucas panics a little bit, but he manages to keep it together. Elliot says that Luca left a scarf and it's actually one of Luca's friend's scarves. And before Elliot can say where it was that he left the scarf, Luca quickly says that he left it in the common room, clearly not wanting his friends to know that he and Elliot hung out together outside of school. Now, we all know that if this meant nothing, Luca could have just said that, but he's feeling self-conscious about a secret and coming out, so he overcompensates. Elliot is like, okay, well, cool, bye. And when Luca's friends ask him who that is, he says nobody. Just some new guy in school, and he's kind of dismissive about Elliot. The kids end up having a party that night at school, and it's a pretty cool underground thing that's a secret. Eventually, Elliot shows up to the party with a girl and his girlfriend, Lucille, and he comes to greet Luca and Chloe, and Luca is in a bit of a daze, so the pair go off dancing, and then in a move that I find really unfair to both girls, but I'm sorry, I still love this. Both the guys are kissing the girls that they're with, but they're secretly, and then not so secretly, checking each other out. The girls don't know. The guys have both seen each other. They know what they're doing, and they're into it. I'm sorry, I don't hate it either. The party comes to an end when security comes, so the kids all make a run for it. Luca is again in a bit of a daze when Elliot grabs his sleeve and he says that he'll walk him home. On the walk, Elliot brings up Chloe and Luca says that she's cool, but she stresses him out because she can be a little bit intense. He asks Elliot about Lucille and how long they've been together, and Elliot says that they've been together for a while and she's great, but he's not sure if he wants it anymore. When Luca asks if he could already see himself with another girl, Elliot says yes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a girl. Oh, the way that he's looking at Luca here. Damn, Elliot. They're saying goodbye and they're almost going to have a moment, but they're interrupted. And this whole scene just has my stomach in knots. So these kids are kind of youngish. They're more like the young Royals kids, but they're so adorable. And Elliot, he's very pretty. In episode 4, it's the old roommate Manon who was the one who interrupted Luca and Elliot. As much as she loves London, she's missed her old neighborhood and her friends, so she's coming back. There's something off with her boyfriend situation as well, but more on that in a bit. Anyway, she's back from London and she'll be staying at the flat temporarily until she can find a place. Mika says that she can take Luca's room and that Luca can take the couch, even though Manon says that she's perfectly fine taking the couch. Luca texts Elliot to say that he had a nice time and asks what he's doing today, if he wants to hang out. Elliot replies that he had a nice time as well, and this results in such a relatable and giddy smile from Luca, but Elliot follows up with he's busy and he'll see Luca on Monday at school. Ah. Manon asks Luca who that guy was last night. They looked pretty close, but Luca says that they're not. Elliot volunteers to paint the new mural in the common room, and as soon as Luca hears this, he offers to help as well. Elliot is pretty pleased that Luca will be volunteering, so they're going to be doing this together. Anyway, after class, Chloe kisses Luca and she wants to hang out, but he's kind of giving her the cold shoulder again. She's like, you know what? You can call me when you're interested. So Luca's treatment of Chloe is dependent on what's going on with Elliot. Elliot ends up standing up Luca for their mural painting mission, so it seems like Luca is going to run back to Chloe again. Manon is onto Luca. And I don't mean to say it in that way, but since Luca is being all shifty and secretive about it, it's what it feels like. He's overly prickly whenever she mentions Elliot, and he makes a point of making out with Chloe in front of Manon. Oh, Chloe girl. Luca is trying a little bit too hard though, and Manon sees it. Just then, Elliot comes by to apologize for not being able to make it, and Luca puts his arm around Chloe's shoulder, putting on a bit of a show as well. Poor Chloe. I mean, Elliot does deserve it though, because he's being a little bit hot and cold. For what it's worth, Elliot does seem genuinely sorry though, and he invites Luca over for some drinks to make up for it, but then Chloe suggests that they do a double date with Elliot and his girlfriend. Chloe is thrilled. By the way, she acts the way normal high school kids act when they're dating. She waits for Luca after his classes, and sure, she is a little bit intense, but they're teens, and it's just Luca who's uncomfortable, and that's mostly because he's not being honest with himself or with her. I don't even think she's that intense. I think Luca just feels that because, you know. Anyway, the double date, predictably, is a disaster. Chloe is her normal bubbly self, Luca is silent, but there's clear trouble in paradise between Elliot and his girlfriend Lucille. They take light jabs at each other, they're clearly both annoyed with each other, and they don't hide it from the other two. Elliot is also kind of snappy and rude, actually. Lucille walks out after he says something really harsh, and Chloe goes after her. Elliot apologizes to Luca, saying that he didn't want him to see that. He just thought that the night would go differently and it would just be the two of them. He suggests then that they get out of there, and yeah, they end up running out into the forest, and it's one of Elliot's favorite places and his special place in the city where he goes to be alone. Luca is the first person that he's brought here. They play some games with the torches in the caves, and Elliot teases Luca a little bit. Just as he's about to make a move to kiss him, he pulls away. And after playing around for a bit, Luca steps out into the rain and they hold hands and eventually they kiss. Oh my heart. It's a gorgeous kiss. Anyway, unpopular opinion. I don't really care if characters in fiction cheat. Yes, it's toxic. Yes, it's wrong and people are going to get hurt. But I'm sorry, I'm still going to be rooting for the main couple. Besides, the real life principles of how you get them is how you lose them. And if they do it with you, they'll do it to you. They don't exist in fiction. I don't make the rules. Anyway, this episode ends with boys kissing in the rain. In episode 5, Elliot and Luca continue their making out in bed, and Elliot asks if he's Luca's first guy, and by Luca's shy response, he guesses yes. When Luca asks Elliot what he thought of him that first day in the common room, Elliot says that wasn't the first time he saw him. He saw Luca in the corridor on his first day. Luca didn't see him, but he saw Luca, and that's all he saw. They're making out, they're cuddling, it's all very tender and romantic, and when Lucille texts, Elliot decides to ignore it for now, and he says that he's staying right there. They fall asleep together, and when Luca wakes up, there's a note from Elliot on his bed saying that he's a very lucky guy, and that Luca is beautiful when he sleeps. The next morning, the flatmates are like, oh yeah, he's cool. Elliot, we saw him on his way out. Luca tries to cover up and says, yeah, he's a good friend and we were drunk. But I mean, the flatmates, no, come on. They just don't push it because they can see that this is still new for Luca and he's not really ready to admit it yet. At school, Luca goes to one of Elias's classes when it's done, and he sees a classmate of him who tells him that Elias actually hasn't been showing up to class lately. Apparently, this was after he snapped in one of his other classes. Luca, please go and break up with Chloe already. This is stressing me out so much. In class, Luca gets a text from Elliot telling him to look out the window, and there is Elliot standing there asking him if he's coming. Luca decides to skip out of the class early, handing in a carelessly completed assignment. When he gets outside, Elliot just kisses him on the lips before Luca has a chance to back away. He doesn't kiss him in a forceful way or anything, it's just a peck, and Elliot just takes this as a normal thing. He doesn't seem to register Luca's momentary hesitation, doesn't realize that Luca's still kind of hiding. Anyway, Elliot says that he told Lucille about them, so they're over. Seriously, Elliot in the throes of a new love is just adorable. He's so cute and smitten and happy, and it made me a little bit nervous too for some reason. More on that in a bit. And then, oh no, when Elliot asks about Luca's parents, he says that his dad left them and his mom is sick. And she thinks that the apocalypse is coming. He says don't worry though, he doesn't talk to her because he doesn't need crazy people in his life. And you can see Elliot's demeanor instantly shift. He's really hurt by this. When Luca moves to kiss him, Elliot rebuffs him and he tells Luca that he'll be late for class and he walks off. Mika tells Luca that if there's anything that he wants to talk about, he can. And Luca eventually opens up to him saying that he and Elliot, they didn't have sex, but he doesn't deny that other things happened. But he's clearly not too comfortable with the gay label yet, and he says that he's not coming out or anything, and he's not one of those grinder gays or a queen. He feels no need to shout it from the rooftops, and he won't be comfortable going to Pride or being out the way that Mika is. Honestly, it's really offensive to Mika. Luca seems to want to have this thing with Elliot not be gay, basically. Mika has a moment then when he tells Luca that the people he thinks that he's better than have the courage to be who they are. They have no choice, even though they might be beaten or killed for it. Luca tries to apologize, but yeah, he can't take back those words. And just as well, because in the moment, I think he wouldn't have really realized how hurtful they are, and he should sit with it a bit and apologize when he actually means it and when he's actually thought about it. Obviously, Luca has some serious internalized homophobia. He texts Elliot to tell him that he told Mika, but Elliot answers that he's happy for him, but things are moving a little bit too fast and he needs a bit of time. They should cool off for a bit. Poor Luca, he's also having a really rough day. He goes to hang out with his friends, but he's miserable. He's just reading the text from Elliot over and over. And one of his closest friends in the group, the one who always notices when Luca is feeling off, his name is Jan, he takes him to the kitchen to talk, but Luca insists that nothing is wrong. There's a party at Chloe's house then, and the friends want to go, and Luca can get them in, but he knows that Chloe is mad at him. Still, he agrees to go, and he sees Elliot at the party, maybe getting cozy with a girl, but before he's able to go over, Chloe comes over and she's justifiably angry and tells him that He strung her along when he knows that he's gay. Luca plays dumb and she's like, you're gay. He later ends up getting into a physical scuffle with one of his friends, and he also sees Elliot making out with a girl at the party. The girl is actually Lucille, I just didn't notice her. Oh man, this is so grim. Anyway, he's alienated from his friends. He has no boyfriend. He's hurt a very nice girl and his flatmates. I mean, I do like that the show shows him really struggling and that he's kind of at rock bottom though, because finding his way back will be really interesting and compelling to watch. His friends have long since lost patience with him because he's just been kind of different and absent, and he refuses to talk about what's going on. In episode 6, at school on Monday, Luca walks in and I'm guessing he's imagining it, but he sees people, including his friends, staring and laughing, and he thinks that this is at him. He also tries to get Chloe to not tell anybody what she said to him because he says it's all lies, but she says that she doesn't owe him anything and she can say whatever she wants. In defending himself to Chloe, he does use a gay slur, and come on, Luca, we're rooting for you, kid. Jan checks in on him again to tell him to stop pretending. His friends are there for him, but he needs to be honest, like what's going on? Jan tells him to fix things. They want him to get better and they just want him back. Their scenes together always make me really emotional. He and Jan are obviously a lot closer than all of the others. They're like two best friends in a group of best friends, basically. In the lunch line, Elliot tries to make some small talk, but Luca tells him, I'm sorry, I can't do it. He walks out and decides not to eat. Thankfully, he does show up for Daphne and the girls when they ask him to help out, going to fetch a couch for the common room. Manon and Luca are sitting on the couch together late at night, and she starts crying as though she's going to tell him what's going on with her. She doesn't say anything though, she just cries while he silently holds her. Actually, I didn't care too much for Manon before this moment, but I really like this budding friendship. It sucks that they're bonding over heartache, but I still really loved this moment. Luca goes to the school nurse because he's having trouble sleeping. He doesn't want to come out and say what's worrying him though. He's not ready. The nurse notices that he wants to talk though, so she encourages him to find somebody that he trusts, somebody who he can be himself with, and talk to them, and she promises that this will be a relief, and Luca says that he'll try. He finds a note from Elliot in his pocket, and I wonder when it got there. Did Elliot slip it into his pocket at the caf? Then he finally asks Jan if they can talk, and he says that he thinks that he fell in love with somebody who is not a girl. It's Elliot. Before he tells him that it is Elliot, Jan asks, is it me? It's such a cute moment. It's said in a very innocent way, and I think that he thought that maybe because Luca was just being so weird. Luca is honest and says that, yeah, maybe a year ago he thought for a second, but no, it's not Jan. He's confused about this whole thing with Elliot because one minute he's broken up with Lucille, and then the next minute he's kissing her. He tells Jan that he came to him because he couldn't bring himself to tell the boys, even though he wanted to. But he hasn't slept in a week, and the school nurse encouraged him to talk to somebody that he trusts. In a very surprising move, disappointing move, Jan says that he needs some time, and he walks away. Jan, no! My heart just breaks for Luca, who's finally ready to be vulnerable, only to be seemingly met with the cold shoulder from Jan, who otherwise seemed to be a really reasonable guy up until this point. This sucks for Luca. In episode 7, Mika finds Luca's note from Elliot in the bin, and he and Manon try to have a mini intervention because Luca has been depressed and he won't get off the couch. He finally says that his best friend left him after he came out, and he feels that everybody at school is laughing at him. And he says out loud for the first time that, he's gay, which is progress. Luca breaks down and he tells Mika that Elliot doesn't care about him. Mika assures him that, first of all, Jan is not a homophobe, so it must be something else, and Manon agrees. Manon also tells Luca that Elliot might have made him take the first step, but she knows that Luca was always kind of curious. I mean, she saw some websites on his phone the previous year. Then Mika says that the closet is a dark, lonely place and it smells, and that Luca should start to live his life and accept who he is. That Monday at school, the boys happily welcome Luca back into the fold, and they're talking about a gay bar that they had fun at, and they want Luca to go sometime, and they'll go to gay pride. It's adorable. And then Daphne comes running to Luca asking him, is it true? Are you gay? And she's so excited, and she pretty much congratulates him and hugs him. The boys are all playing foosball, and then Jan comes to join. The other friends kind of parent trap Jan and Luca because they know that the two need to talk. Oh, these kids are just so precious. Anyway, Jan says that it was a little weird when Luca admitted that he had a thing for him, but that's actually not what he had an issue with. They're good. They're best friends, and Jan was just disappointed that Luca felt like he couldn't come to him. He tried to reach out several times when Luca started acting out, only to be shut out. In the end, Jan says, yeah, it sucks because Luca was able to tell Mika, and the rest of the school pretty much knew, but he couldn't tell his best friend. And he knows that that's also partly on him because he, Jan, made some gay jokes in the past, and he knows that they were just jokes, but he didn't know, and he apologizes. In fact, both boys apologize to one another and they embrace. Jan also offers to paint the mural with Luca and the other boys. In class later, Luca finds another note from Elliot in his bag, and it's a drawing narrating what is actually happening between them. In the drawing, Luca thanks Elliot for the drawing and asks when he put it in his pockets, and Elliot answers in the cafeteria. And he put another one in his bag when Luca was in sports class. And P.S. I miss you. I'm seriously about to lose it on this show. Iman and Luca have a pretty immature discussion about her religion and homosexuality. She's Muslim, remember? And they never really fought about it. They just had a debate, and now they've found some common ground. I actually really like their seating partner friendship. Luca finds Chloe and finally admits that he did use her. She's pretty and she's cool, and he thought that it could work, and he really tried, but it's not her. He's just gay. He acknowledges that he hurt her and that he lied, and she says that she understands and maybe one day she can learn to forgive him. Well, she apologizes too for selling some people, and she said she was just so focused on getting revenge. She says that she's happy for him and Elliot, even though Luca says that they're not together anymore. While they're painting the mural, his friends tell Luca to tell Elliot to either stop with the notes or to say what's going on. Luca does just that. He texts and he says thank you for the drawings, but basically what gives, Elliot? I'm paraphrasing. Elliot responds that he wants to talk, and the guys then debate what Luca should send back, and he settles on no, he can't talk because he's busy painting the mural. It seems at first like Elliot isn't texting back, and the guys are all like, you know what, there's plenty of fish in the sea, let's just paint the mural and have fun. But suddenly, Elliot responds and says that he's coming there to the common room, and the guys are like, okay, we gotta get out, and they all leave to give the boys their moment. I mean, I guess in a way, Elliot and Luca were meant to paint the mural together in the beginning, but I wouldn't have minded if it were just the friend group because they're always so cute and funny. Anyway, it's panic stations as the guys rush off and leave, and Luca prepares to have his talk with Elliot. Elliot comes in then, all hair and pretty eyes, and he asks Luca if he needs a hand. They start painting, and when Luca laughs at something Elliot says it's nice to see him smile, and he missed that. That since he met Luca, he's the only one that matters. You know, I often think this, that attractive people have it made, because coming from somebody else, this might have had me thinking, it's a little much, it's a little early. But coming from Elliot, I'm like, okay, it's cute, I'll allow it. It's kind of everything. Anyway, the boys play fight with the paint, and then they kiss. They get fully naked in the school, for goodness sake, but okay. By the way, the intimate scenes up until this point, they're not gratuitous at all. This isn't elite. They're more romantic and sweet, like Wille and Simon and Young Royals. In episode 8, Luca wakes up alone in bed, covered in paint, and he gets a text from his dad saying that he hopes that they can visit his mom this week. This dad, though, where is he? He can't even make sure to pay his kids' rent on time. Does he know that Luca is fine? How does he think Luca lives? Luckily, Luca has very good friends. Luca goes out into the kitchen, and Elliot is busy chatting away with Manon and Mika, and he's making them breakfast. When Luca comes in, he gives him a big good morning kiss, and it's so adorable that Elliot is just completely not self-conscious, and that kind of helps Luca not overthink it so much either. Elliot asks if they didn't make too much noise, and the other roommate is like, yeah, we heard you, and now I need more sleep. When they're alone in the kitchen, Luca tells Elliot that he thought that he'd left to go be with Lucille again. And Elliot is like, wait, why would I? We're not together. Luca still doesn't believe that Elliot won't go back to her. Elliot admits then that Luca just didn't seem ready for what they had together. And so he thought that maybe it would work again with Lucille. He was scared that Luca wouldn't want to be serious. Luca says that he does want to be serious, and Elliot says, well, just as well, because I'm not going anywhere. Luca gets a text from his dad asking if he's coming to mass this week with his mother, and he says yes, he'll come with his boyfriend. And by the way, all the kids love the mural that Elliot and Luca made together. And Luca and Elliot seem really happy and comfortable together, although we still have 2.5 episodes to go, and I wonder if we're going to get started with another story, because I don't want another Luca and Elliot breakup. Later in the day, Elliot comes round and the boys all cheer when Luca finally introduces him as his boyfriend. They all agree to hang out later, and when they're alone, Lucille calls Luca and he hands the phone to Elliot, who tells her to leave them be now. Luca is worried, but Elliot says that it's just that Lucille has lost control over him and she's trying to get a hold of him through Luca. Then there's this really cute moment where Elliot kisses Luca goodbye, walks off, and then he runs back and he gives Luca another kiss. While they're in the park, the boys are planning on spending the weekend together, but they can't hang out at Elliot's place because his parents will be home this weekend. Elliot is a bit of a mystery at this point still. I mean, he might be slightly troubled. Where are his parents? Bazil tries to shoot a shot with Daphne. He has had a crush on her all term. Okay, so I've avoided the storyline because Manon and her friend may as well be twins to me, and I struggle to tell them apart when they're together. Anyway, the girls are best friends, but the other one wants to know what's going on with Manon and Charles. Manon has been kind of offish and distant. She tells Manon to tell her when she's ready. I was certain that I sensed vibes between them, but I guess they're just friends. We'll see. Elliot surprises Luca with a stay on a boat for the weekend. Luca asks what we're all asking, how on earth did you pay for all of this? But Elliot just kisses him. I so badly wanted to enjoy this happy moment, but I have a bad feeling. Is he recklessly spending or is he just a rich kid? I can't tell. Now I'm also thinking about the call from Lucille and I need to know what that was about. The fact that Elliot moved schools at the last minute, the absent parents. I was about to ask, is his house even his house? But Lucille was there, so it is. Something's off. They have a cute date then and things get steamy and then, oh no, I was right. Elliot starts joking about their wedding and it starts out kind of cute, but it gets weird. And Elliot starts talking nonsense. I cannot handle awkward scenes, so I just fast forwarded. I know that Elliot is unwell, but still, I couldn't watch this. Anyway, I felt so bad for him and Luca, who has known for a minute now that things are kind of off. Anyway, I skipped to the point where Elliot says that they could just die tonight because they've reached their point of happiness. And Luca really doesn't like this. It upsets him and it makes him uncomfortable. And Elliot reassures him that he was just joking. Oh no, Elliot is off his meds again, isn't he? I hate this so much. Elliot decides to go for a swim at night and Luca is in a panic, shouting for him out on the deck. He can't find him anywhere, and that's when he calls Lucille. She comes and tells Luca that Elliot is bipolar, and she asks if they smoke together because he shouldn't be smoking. It's not good for him. She gets a call saying that Elliot is fine, or rather, that he's been found and that he will be fine. She's going to go to him and alert his parents. Oh, and by the way, Elliot broke into the boat. He doesn't have that kind of money to rent it. Luca wants to go with Lucille, but she says that he shouldn't. She says that Elliot just thinks that he loves Luca, but he can't. Luca is nothing for him. This is really harsh, and she tells Luca that he's just a whim. She makes it seem like this is always how Elliot gets and that she's the one who kind of has to come around and fix things. Anyway, it's episode 9, and you guys, I'm starting to worry that this is the show that might not give us a happy ending. Oh, my nerves are so frayed at this point, but okay, we have 2 episodes left. Get it together, Jenny. Okay, so Mika tries to talk to Luca, telling him that this heartbreak will pass and he'll be okay. Luca is at the laundromat when Elliot texts him some drawings and then he sends him a bunch of texts at once until Luca tells him to stop because he can't handle it. He's very overwhelmed. I really sympathize with him here because, you know, he can't encourage the texting and respond to everything, but also shutting it down might also set Elliot off more. I do hope that what's happening here does help Luca be more understanding of his mother and her illness. Still, he's a teenager and this is a lot. This would be a lot for anybody. And if that's not enough, his dad responds saying that he hopes that the boyfriend thing was a joke, but in any case, please don't bring your boyfriend to the church because your mother wouldn't understand. Manon finally talks about Charles and her time in London. In the beginning, things were great. They discovered the city together, but he got busy with working with his dad and she got busy with her classes, and she had a tough time making friends. Then she had to testify against somebody named Nico in court. That already brought back so much trauma for her, but to make things worse, Charles and Nico are actually brothers, and he told Manon that prison would ruin Nico's life, especially since he didn't actually assault her. Charles didn't force her not to testify, but he didn't support her, so she backed out of testifying. And that's when she decided to end things and she came back. She was ashamed, having left for London with the love of her life and having it not work out. The 3 flatmates decide to have some Sunday night drinks together and talk about their love lives that are all in shambles. And then they have a dance party in the lounge and Manon and her friend make out, something that they swore they wouldn't do. At school, Bazil tells Luca that his mom is also bipolar and that he knows quite a bit about it. But it's in his typical, you know, light-hearted but still pretty sensitive way. Like, it's a serious illness, but it is manageable. And the boys encouraged Luca to go and see Elliot. Luca was afraid of making things worse, but he believed Lucille when she told him that Elliot couldn't love him. Bazil reminds Luca that just because somebody is bipolar doesn't mean that they can't love. It's actually quite the opposite. He tells him that it'll be challenging, like it sometimes is with his mom, but that shouldn't stop him if he really likes Elliot. Luca gets a message from his mom then with some biblical scripture, and she says that she hopes that he can come to church on Friday. He texts back that he's gay and he apologizes for disappointing her, but he will be at church. And you know what she responds? She responds that she loves him and that she's proud of him. This just makes me dislike the father even more because he really villainized her before giving her a chance. At school, the principal comes in fuming because the common room kids have been stealing Wi-Fi from the teacher's lounge. He also wants them to paint over the mural, but Iman steps up and she says that, that mural is something that they painted together and it's symbolic to them as a group and it represents their diversity. Does he really want them to paint over that? And with white paint? She cleverly plays him, but she's not wrong. He says, fine, the mural stays, but the common room is closed for good and they're all going to get a final warning. Luca meets his mother at church and she tells him that his father isn't coming. She left him too many messages and he just hasn't wanted to see her since they separated. She seems to have made peace with it for now, and she tells Luca that his father just needs some time. His mom actually seems to be having a good day. She's lucid, and she seems like a nice enough lady. In church, Lucille texts Luca telling him that Elliot has run off again and she's worried about him and she wants to know if he's with Luca. Luca thinks about all of their good times together then and that it's not over. Yay, Luca, go get your guy. He tells his mom that he needs to go and he runs back to look for Elliot. He's going to the forest, isn't he? Yes, he is. He finds Elliot huddled in a corner in the caves and he's crying and Luca tells him that he's not alone. I had to have my crying towel for this one. I was bawling my eyes out. Anyway, in episode 10, the final episode of season 3, Luca tells Lucille that Elliot has been sleeping since he brought him back. Luca is worried what Elliot's parents might think of him being a guy, or the fact that Elliot is over at his place. Lucia rather rudely tells Luca that he's not the first. When Luca apologizes, Lucille surprises us all by actually apologizing to him. She says that Luca is different. The way that Elliot talks about him, this doesn't seem to be a phase, and of course Elliot is capable of love. When Luca assumes that Lucille hates him, she says that she actually envies him because even when they first started dating, he wasn't like that with her. She tells him that he needs to be patient with Elliot now and that he's going to have some responsibilities. We get a montage of their good days and their not so good days, but through it all, Luca is just there for Elliot as he regains his balance again. At one point, Luca is reluctant to go to school, but Elliot tells him to go. Luca does call Mika to check in on Elliot, and his friends do tell him that he can't go the rest of his life like this. Elliot will be fine, and Luca needs to live. His boyfriend isn't going anywhere. Basile says that he's also not always on his mom's case, constantly asking if she's okay. He tells Luca to just wait until Elliot resurfaces. And he does. Luca gets home from school one day to find Elliot playing board games with his flatmates. He's coming out of the fog, I guess, and he asks Luca about his day. He also apologizes for kind of snapping at him that morning, and he says that he's scared that Luca can't handle this. He talks Luca through what he can expect in a life with him. He'll have his mood swings and he'll want to stop taking his meds. He tends to do that when he's happy, and he's happy with Luca. He doesn't want Luca to have to deal with him. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want Luca to suffer because of him. Luca tells him that they'll take it day by day, minute by minute. He's all in. There's this really cute moment when they hug and Luca whispers to Elliot, "You're beautiful when you laugh." This show has so many moments, but I adored the scene and when Luca said that. Also, minute by minute eventually becomes their thing, their reassuring phrase to one another. At school, the kids are staging a sit-in in protest of the common room shutting down. Daphne makes a passionate plea to the principal and tells him that because of the common room, all of these students who otherwise wouldn't have known each other or wouldn't have interacted, well, now they do. They've connected. They're friends. And this is important. It's a good thing. He agrees to keep the common room open, but one step out of line and it's closed again. In a really touching scene, Daphne finds herself hugging Basile after he showed his support to her, and he says that he knows that he's annoying, but he'll work to improve himself, and he hopes that one day he'll be good enough for her. Luca and Elliot say a brief goodbye because obviously Elliot needs to go back home to his parents, plus he says he can't keep wearing Luca's too small clothes. Luca is having a really difficult time with Elliot leaving, but Elliot assures him that it's not forever. Remember, minute by minute. Also, I love that this time it's Elliot reassuring Luca. As he goes onto the bus, he tells Luca that he loves him, and Luca says it back. Manon's friend tells her friends with benefits guy, Alex, that she wants to maybe hang out. They had only just been sleeping together, but she says, maybe they can just hang out for real. I don't know if this is going to be a story next season, I guess so. And no, please look at how cute Chloe and Jan are saying hello to each other at this party. Oh my goodness. Jan had asked Luca if he could ask her out, but I didn't expect it. And I really like this. Just as Daphne seems to be coming to talk to Basile, a girl named Clara comes over and asks if she wants to have sex with her. I really liked her frankness, but I mean, these kids are in high school. Yikes. Anyway, Basile is about to say yes, but then he tells Clara that he actually has a crush on another girl and he wants to be better for her, so he declines. Daphne is standing behind him this whole time and she's overheard all of this and she goes to kiss him. Manon gets a distressing call from Charles. I'm guessing that he's broken up with her for good or he's not coming back. We don't really know what it is, but it's very distressing. She's crying. Elliot feels up to it and he decides to surprise Luca by coming to the park to hang out. Can I just say, you know, I know that these are two fictional characters, but the way that Elliot kisses Luca, I don't know, there's something about it. It's so gorgeous and romantic and kind of realistic, even though it isn't. I think I'm noticing a little bit more because I recently watched the movie A Family Affair with Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron, and the kissing on there was appallingly bad and really unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, they kiss and they live happily ever after. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Thank goodness there are so many seasons of this show because I can't wait to see more. Anyway, if you have seen it or if you have any recommendations for what to see next, feel free to share your thoughts and thank you for watching.